Good evening and welcome to a virtual view from the East End. How you doing? My name's Smithers. I couldn't find my hat with Smithers on, obviously. I've got it on the back, as you can see, just there. So I'll wear that for a little bit like that, so you know who I am. I am joined tonight, as ever, by Morsey. He's under my screen here. I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction.
No, that's Jono.
Oh, okay.
Go diagonal.
I've got Eddie. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So that must be Morsey.
That's right too.
Morsey down there. Jono down there. Hello, fellas. How are we?
I'm pretty good, Smithers. 27 days is going to be a long time.
27 days is going to be a long time.
It's going to be a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be a long time. I'll tell you what. I'll let you know what we're going to talk about tonight. So we've got a pretty packed bumper show. We had a game at the weekend. So we'll do a review of the game. We'll do some winners and smithers. We'll talk about the NRL's response to the COVID-19 crisis and what we think of it. We'll talk a little bit about clubs in crisis. Things are moving very swiftly in Australia and especially in the rugby league industry at the minute. We might talk about some players who might have played their last ever game, some potentially retiring players and who you miss and who you won't. We are going to talk about what we're missing most in terms of a sporting context and what we've done to fill the void in terms of what we're watching. That's movies, not, online videos, John. But yeah, that's about it. So we'll hopefully keep you entertained. And for the first time, you can see our lovely faces, which of course you can see we have a face for radio. So let's do a quick round of houses. Morsey, how are you? Lockdown update. Day hour 21.
Yeah, good. Kids still alive, still married. Just, I think, so going well, I suppose.
Okay, all right. Jono?
Yeah, look, much the same. My beer fridge, I've decided was not quite stocked enough, so I have to think about how I get some more in.
Well, you go to the super. You're lucky you live in one of these fancy parts where they sell beer in a supermarket. Not like us out west. Edward?
Yeah, good. No COVID-19 in my household.
No, excellent. Eddie looks like...
But we've had to start dipping into the supply of wine that I made in 2014 that was deemed undrinkable back then, but not so bad.
Classic. I was going to say, yeah, I'll be drinking the Terps out the garage by the end of the month. No, I did. I bought a couple of cases of beer just the other night. But yeah, it's mayhem. It's mayhem out there. They, I think the liquor stores out in West recorded their sales have gone up 1,800%. That's the announcement on Monday. So there you go. That's what we do out West. All right.
Picking by the end of 27 days, I'll be able to sell a bottle of bourbon to Jono for like about 3 or 4 times the price that I paid for it.
You might want to put another zero into that, Eddie. So.
Jono will be desperate. Okay, well, hello. Listen, let's kick into it. So we did have a game on the weekend. I watched it with Big Mike actually. He came round. I was lucky to have Jono see my new deck for a couple of drinks in the afternoon. Then Big Mike came round for a beer and watched the game. It was very odd watching a game around what was quite an echoey Seabus Stadium, and for anyone who's been there, it's a great stadium. It's quite enclosed. It's a little bit like Amy Park in Melbourne, but you could hear the players talking, and you could hear the echoes running around the stadium. So it's quite odd. Again, we got beat. At least we got some points on the board, although technically we didn't actually put the ball down ourselves. But listen, Morsey, I'll come to you. What are your thoughts? Better or worse than game one, and in what way?
Yeah, it was a strange atmosphere, strange game. I thought we did a little bit better than round one, but I also think the Raiders weren't at their best. So the scoreline probably flattered us a little bit because the Raiders weren't playing to what we know they can do as well. But again, we just can't seem to hold the ball. Lots of dropsies, a lot of errors. I don't know how many, 13 errors, I think, something like that. And that's just too much. And there are a couple of coach killers. I mean, we were in their 20 for a long time at the sort of beginning of the game. Yet we just couldn't find a way to get points, and that was ultimately our downfall. When we had the pressure on, we couldn't get the points, and a team like the Raiders, they can soak that up and they just go down the other end and almost immediately got the first try, and then we were just chasing the game, and we're probably not good enough to do that at the moment. So again, purely from a rugby league perspective, it was disappointing, and you could tell if this was a normal kind of season, it would be a very, very long one for us. But otherwise, so a bit better, but still a long way to go for the Warriors, I'd say.
Long way to go, yeah. That it was the lack of kind of potency on attack. That's been there for a long time, not just this season, quite a long way through last season. Eddie, what about you? Was it better than last week? And if so, were there any shining lights that you would have liked to have seen playing next week? Were we playing?
I think we were probably fractionally better than last week. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really. There was that one, obviously, penalty try, and even that, admittedly, it was a penalty try. But if he hadn't been pulled back, there's still a chance that he doesn't score that, and we get zipped again. It was nice to see. What's his name? Katoa. Again, he seems to be an outstanding find, and it's a shame that the season's not continuing for his development, because through 2 weeks he's made every other player on that team look pretty average, and he's really come in and got a real desire to perform for the Warriors, and that's what we need to see from the whole team. And I can understand under the circumstances that they were playing, but they were lucky. Canberra did a lot of ball and didn't even look really that, they just weren't the same team in that first half, and pretty much throughout the game. And I guess it was hanging over both their heads, but Canberra on a good day would have given us a right thumping.
Yeah, we did hang on for a while, and I was watching with Mike, and it was like, man, how are we still in this? How are we still in this? Jono, I might have to ask you a question before you fall asleep. Your body doubles up front, not great again in the forwards. Was it same old, same old?
Look, I think the first thing is, given that they've been quarantined over there, not quarantined, but they're over there sort of not away from family and just really in a really challenging scenario. I thought they actually put in a big effort. So there was their effort was really good. They tried hard. They tried a few things on attack, but back to your point is that, and Morsey's, which was dropping the ball, didn't help, but there's just no go forward. So to me, it was very similar to last week. They didn't make as much meters as the opposition. Their opposition looked like they could score reasonably easily. We just never looked like we were going to score. So it was just sort of similar outcome. We tried a few things, but overall, I didn't see any razzle dazzle on a field that was going to probably be open to that, because it was a good day. But they did really well, I think. They lost 20-6 try in the last sort of 20 seconds, so 14-6. I think probably would have overall been a better reflection of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty bad. I thought they were in pockets. There was pockets of light, but I thought overall it was no better than watching them last week. I thought, like I said, I was struggling to wonder how we were still in the game. I just think it was Raiders dropping too much ball and not finishing us off. And the Raiders never really got out of third gear, and they didn't need to. They're a tidy outfit. They've got some great players. And they got a couple of tries. They did what they needed to do. I was disappointed that we couldn't put proper points on the board, but thankful we put some points on the board, because we're not going to finish in the wooden spoon, or we're not currently in the wooden spoon position at the minute.
We would have broken a record from 1909 or something, wouldn't we?
It was 100 years, and that team got kicked out of the comp.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So not a great kind of I guess, game experience. Eddie, talking about getting kicked out of the comp, what, however, is our thoughts around how the Warriors have behaved? Behaved is probably the wrong word, but kind of conducted themselves over the past couple of weeks, sticking in Australia, obviously seemingly willing to stick in Australia for the long term. We managed to get them on a plane home yesterday, or Tuesday perhaps it was. And I think everyone's been pretty kind of thankful in terms of Warriors fans on social media, saying, you know, thanks for doing what you did, thanks for sticking it out. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty proud of what they did, even if it's not gonna last very long.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've done it. The club's done themselves proud, and I think the rest of the comps appreciated what they've done and being away over in Australia and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think, you know, I think there'll be a lot of fans out there who will take and at the moment anyway, we'll take them on as their second team. See what happens when it all kicks off again. But yeah, I think they got a lot of cred out of this. Yeah,
just watching Morsey stroke his beard there. I've noticed, having now I live my life on Zoom, how much I touch my face. I know. I'm trying to. I got to sit on my hands so I don't touch myself, or not touch my face. All right, hey John, the NRL have got some interesting rap this week in terms of how they have handled their response to this crisis. They were the penultimate regular tournament to pull out, I think, before the A-League. Obviously, I think the Olympics was the last major tournament, but as a one-off. How do you think the NRL have come across in all this? And by NRL, I mean the governing body behind it. So your Greenbergs, your Peter Blanderses of the world.
Look, I think they sort of recognised that the longer they could go on, the more revenue they could get, and the more likely that they're going to save their competition. So they were looking at all viable options around that. So Volandis, who pretty much is spearheading it from what I can see, as a businessman through and through. So he's been working the angles the whole way through. So look, from my perspective, he's trying to, in one breath, safeguard the players from a health perspective, and in the second breath, trying to safeguard the players in the competition from an economic standpoint. So could he have done something different? Could they have done it earlier? If we fast forward a month, no one's going to know there's any difference between them cutting everything off versus AFL 2 days before, Super Rugby 3 days before that. So the right decision has been made in the end. So for me, I was neither here nor there in the end because the right decision was made.
Morsey, a fan?
Yeah, what Jono said there, really, I guess you can tell the desperation there from Vlandis and Greenberg, which kind of speaks to perhaps the desperate situation that the NRL finds itself in, which is another story, I guess, and another thing that we could talk about another time. So I guess it does worry, the players and the employees of these clubs. I know the situation they'll be in is not good, clearly, because of how long they were just trying to keep it going. So I feel for the staff of these clubs, particularly those that are not as well backed and don't have the reserves, the dollars, and so it is a concern for the competition as a whole. I suspect the NRL will survive in some form. There'll still be an NRL, but whether it's 16 clubs in the way that it is now, I suspect not, because of just the economic impact that COVID's going to have on all of this and the shutdown.
Yeah. Eddie, I flicked you a message earlier on this week saying something along the lines of, hey, getting bought out by Ortex could be the best thing that we never knew happened to us. And then you kind of flipped me out about what were you, where do you think the Warriors stand in this situation?
It's hard to tell, really, because this prolonged it depends on how prolonged the shutdown is. We've got obviously a good backer in the Robinsons, and but on the flip side of that, they've got staff to pay, and if our first priority is going to be to continue to make sure that Ortex stays alive, because you don't make a lot of money out of being a rugby league club, and Vortex will still be making, will make money, and will make money in the future, given the products that they make, and rightly so. Like, as a businessman, you have to back the part that's profitable. So I hope that it doesn't come down to a decision between Vortex and the Warriors. But, there's only so long you can dip into your own pocket, depending on how long this thing goes on for. So, I don't know. I think it could be, the Warriors could become a bit dicey, and that's what I think Kent was alluding to on L360. So, I would like to think that that every, Vortex and the Warriors and the Robinson family can make it through this, but time to tell for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, there is, Jono, there's, we're moving so fluidly, segueing through these things. Talking about clubs in crisis and clubs being dicey, I heard Andrew Voss must have been Monday morning, because I was in the car going to work, so yeah, it wouldn't have been any other days this week, talking about he already knew of specific Sydney clubs who were like, yeah, this could be the end of us. And there are those, I think Sydney clubs especially, not purely, but there are those clubs that rely on the league's backing, they rely on the community funding, of course, things that they now cannot get funding through. We've seen things escalate this week, even in the past 24 to 48 hours. Clubs coming out and saying, "Yeah, okay, we've laid off some staff, we've stopped paying players, or people are getting cuts." Seabold's come out and said he's taken a cut. I think Canterbury this morning, or the Raiders, maybe Josh Hodgson saying something. I mean, it's very bad very quickly. I mean, how widespread do you think this could be, Jono? And what are the clubs do you think are the ones that are most at risk?
Well, obviously it's going to be pretty widespread, because they derive their revenue from the broadcasters every time there's a weekend of games, and if there's no weekend of games, then that source of revenue doesn't come in for the players to get paid, and so they've got to dip into the coffers to pay the players as one point. And to your point, I think they also derive their revenue from different streams, so leagues, clubs, financial backers like your Ortex or your Penn family for Manly, etc. And then it's these clubs which have got sort of money in the bank, and have got backers who've got deep pockets, which will ultimately more survive or can weather the storm. So going back to your point around Ortex, maybe it would have been better if we still had Eric Watson, because potentially he's got deeper pockets and would want to weather it a little bit more. I don't know. So I don't know. So from what I can see, Cronulla is one that would be certainly very close, and Manly's been floated around as well. That's sort of powered by the Penn family, who's sinking $1 million in a year. But I wouldn't know. But you think your sort of Sydney Roosters, your South Sydneys are pretty cashed up, or have got deep packers, and then it's sort of probably your more suburban clubs, I think.
I suspect the Roosters will somehow work the salary cap to their advantage in some way here.
Yeah. The Roosters will be fine. I think we all know that.
Yeah.
No, you finished, Tony.
Yeah. So I think just to understand how that money gets paid, or how each parts of the clubs are getting paid, because we'll come on to this after. The players are under a collective agreement, whereas the staff are sort of directly independent employment agreements with the clubs. And the other ones you just talked about here, the coaches I just read before, where 10 of the 16 coaches are on some type of unpaid leave, effectively at the moment. And so that'll start to tell you which clubs are struggling a little bit, because the ones that are still paying their six, which is probably like your Seabolds and your Bennetts, and that probably can weather it a little bit longer.
Yeah. Morsey, anything on that, or you what he said?
Yeah, I mean, what what they've all said, really. I think, yeah, time will tell, and hopefully we can weather, and everybody can just weather this storm, and the lockdown isn't too significant, and yeah, we can come through the other side. So I think it's just such a big unknown right now, and I guess we'll just be drip-fed stories over the next few days and few weeks as the longer it goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's all getting rather morbid, so let's get up again. Your winners and Smithers from a week of league. Yes, this is the last week of league that we are going to be seeing for a while. But it wasn't all calamity on the Gold Coast. There were some pretty good games out there, some pretty good performances. I'm gonna kick off actually, just because last week everyone stole mine, so I want the opportunity to do that. My winner this week is the Parramatta Eels, and in particular Mitchell Moses, who managed to score himself about 100 points, and also played really, really well. I thought. For once, all these bloody Eels fans going on about, oh yeah, it's going to be our year. You know what? They really turned it on, admittedly against a very poor Gold Coast Titans side, but they were my winners this week. My Smithers this week were the Sydney Roosters, who went back-to-back losses and lost to Manly. Can you believe it? And lost.
I know. Who would predict that, eh? Who would have predicted the Sea Eagles to win?
Yeah, I don't know. And lost to Manly to a Daddy Trevor Evans field goal, which is just certainly wins. So there you go. Eddie, what about you? What are your winners and your Smithers?
My winner this week would be probably the Newcastle Knights, who have been in some pretty good. Obviously beat us week 1, and then had a good win over a Tigers outfit that also they had a good win in week 1. So. That was an away win for the Knights, and shame the season's potentially over for them, but they were looking pretty good after 2 weeks. And my Smithers would probably be probably it's probably to be expected, but the Titans. So, yeah, they're just looking awful, and. We're just lucky that they were around to take over the wooden spoon for us.
Yeah, exactly. Jono.
Well, my one is sort of along the same sort of vein as I think you, Eddie, is the Broncos, 2 wins from 2. So I think they've started the season pretty well, and we're probably sort of slightly unknown. A lot of people had them a bit mid-pack. I thought they played very well in the first 2 weeks, and they lost, I think, Brodie Croft early in that match and still went on to win it. So, without your sort of marquee signing in the halves there, Katoni Staggs did very well. And my Smithers was same as you. Smithers is the Roosters 0-2, and particularly the spray that they got at the end of the match from Trent Robinson, I thought was particularly nice.
Yeah, exactly. Morsey furiously writing there.
Yeah, just having a look at the results over the weekend. Actually, just to remind myself, but I had my winners were the Knights, like Eddie, 2 from 2, looking good in attack, and yeah, shame for them because they probably would have been, looking all right over these first few rounds. So shame for them. And my Smithers were the Dragons. Actually, they did well. They did well to come back against Penrith and lead going into that final quarter. With Penrith doing a number on them and coming back and winning. So the Dragons going to feel a bit gutted because they, more than any club, desperately need a result somewhere because they're under such pressure in and around the club there. So yeah, so they were my Smithers.
All right, thanks there, Chief. And for anyone wondering, that's not Morsey's natural voice. He's not like this kind of husky hunk. He's got it on pilot mode. He's got it on fighter pilot mode. Later on, we'll get him to say something like, hello, people. A little bit of turbulence at the minute. All right. I don't know if you've got a pause button there, Eddie. You might not, but I'm happy just to keep rolling through.
Up to you. I've got a pause if you want to pause. We can have a break, or we can...
Does anyone need a drink? I'm the only one who seems to be drinking. Hey, I can't drive anywhere, so, you know. Now we'll keep going. All right. So it is. So we don't have any sport. Nothing. NRL's gone. A-League's gone. Olympics is gone. I don't think there's anything really of note still going, and there's a lot of stuff that has been postponed or cancelled or is a threat of being postponed. So my question to you, and I'll start with you, Morsey, is what are you missing most? So not necessarily now, but of things that you know that you don't have now or you're not going to have in the next couple of months, what are you either missing or going to miss the most? In a sporting context, please.
In a sporting context, yeah. So my biggest disappointment this year is I love a good football summer tournament, Northern Hemisphere summer, and so the Euros for me, I'm gutted about. I just love I love a tournament. I love England being in the tournament, and so I am desperately going to be missing.
Right up to the quarterfinals, obviously.
Oh yeah, totally, absolutely. But I love the whole thing about it. You know, I get into all the new kits and all that sort of stuff. Who are the squads going to be picked? The different, tactics that the teams use. So I get right into it and watch as much as I possibly can. So for me, from the sporting world, NRL aside, Premier League aside, and all that sort of stuff. And everything that's being sort of postponed for now as a tournament, the Euros for me. And the Euros are always a strong tournament because, it's the best of the European countries, of course. So it's sometimes stronger than a World Cup. So, yeah, that's disappointing. Plus, England did have, got a fairly decent shot. Only kidding.
Just our luck. Jono, what about you? What are you missing? Or gonna miss?
Again, taking the NRL aside, probably the main one will be the Masters golf, I think. So I quite look forward to sitting down and watching a fair amount of that. So that'll be sort of as a singular event, that'll be the biggest thing for me. But just the ability to hop on Sky Sports and just flick around and see what's going on, and just picking my sort of poison at the time is going to be quite difficult, I think.
Yeah, just out of interest, there's a piece on something today around the Ryder Cup. Now, the Ryder Cup is due to be held in Wisconsin in September, maybe, this year. And they're talking about what happens with qualifications. So someone sort of threw it out there. Well, why don't you have a Ryder Cup where you have 12 captains' picks? Do away with rankings and qualification and just have pick 12. To be honest, I don't think we'll be seeing a Ryder Cup this year either. But anyway, Eddie, what about you? It's got to have 4 wheels, surely.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, probably it could be probably one of 3 things really. Supercars, of course. Major League Baseball was meant to be opening day tomorrow,
yes.
Which is disappointing, and we would have been right nearly on the cusp of the NBA playoffs as well about now. So there's a lot to be a bit sad about. So those ones. Although the supercars are going to do an E-Series, which is probably not going to be the same, but it is going to be all their drivers. So that could be quite entertaining for one lap or so, and then turn it off. But, I thought, Jono, you would have segued from missing sport to not being able to go to Burger King.
Don't they deliver? No.
Well, don't worry about that, Eddie. I got my fix on the last day, so.
I bet you did.
You did.
Oh yeah. What about you, Smithers?
Yeah. Do you know what? I hadn't actually thought. My immediate thought was the Euros, obviously, as a football fan. Love a good tournament. I think perhaps some of the. I think with Jono, perhaps. Well, actually, US sports, yes. I forgot about we'd be hitting baseball season and basketball playoffs. I think perhaps some of the lesser known things that you just flick around and find, like there's no darts, the snooker's always supposed to be around Bank Holiday Monday over in the UK. I don't think that's probably going to happen. And yeah, just some of those random things that it's quite nice to watch those moments, and the golf as well. There's no golf at the minute.
So pretty much everything that we all said except for the supercars.
Yeah. Although you can bet on esports now.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, TAB are taking money on esports. Get money back. Get money back into the betting industry. That's an industry that needs it, obviously.
There's bound to be something else on, like that's the
Russian basketball.
Russian ping pong tournament.
Russian ping pong.
There's no watch and bet option though, so it wouldn't be that.
Actually, sorry, John. Just after your snide comment, what I'm not missing is watching Liverpool win the Premier League.
I've got several emails from a particular person at my firm, also giving me that kind of grief. So
yeah, I cannot wait until they declare the season null and void and they don't actually win it, and then you can wait another 30 years. I honestly, I would die laughing. Anywho,
I've just noticed here you can still bet on the Belarusian Premier League.
Yeah, the Belarus is the only football I think going on at the moment.
It does say the French Cup between Paris Saint-Germain and Saint-Etienne, or someone say.
No. Those French are crazy, but they're not mental.
Wow, that's what TAB says. They're still placing bets on it.
Jeez. All right.
And the Chinese Taipei...
Make money on PSG.
Chinese Taipei Basketball League.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, I'm going to ask you... so, now I know what you're missing. I'm now going to ask you, what are you watching instead? So, we're all on lockdown for 4 weeks. We have no sport to watch. What are you gonna do instead to fill the time on screen time in terms of Eddie, let's come to you.
Well, Major League Baseball is actually giving their Game Pass away for free at the moment. I think NFL is doing the same, so you can watch the back catalogue of
old games,
MLB and NFL games. But from a TV standpoint, I think even prior to this lockdown, we've been trying our way through the first 7 series of Shameless, the American version, unfortunately for you guys, you pommies.
It's okay. We'll get there. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, nice. Morsey?
Yeah, well, on Netflix, I just stumbled across a program called The English Game, and it's about the football league back in the 19th century, based on true events apparently, but it's located in the north of England in Lancashire, a football club called Darwin, and it's about how the real posh teams like the Old Etonians, who thought they owned the game, were coming up against the Northern Mill teams like your Blackburn Rovers or your Darwins and stuff like that. The most disappointing thing though is I'm watching it with my wife, and it's made by the Downton Abbey guy. And I knew this would happen, but in the first episode there were a couple of games of football. In the second episode, there was no football whatsoever. It's just about who loves who, who's arguing with who, blah blah blah. I just want to see some football. And there's nothing. So, but anyway, I'm going to carry on.
So you want to turn it off, but Karen wants to keep on watching it.
Yeah.
Wow. There's
no football.
What a surprise! Yeah.
We'll come back to you in a few weeks, Mosey. I reckon you'll have been turned.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
John, what about you? What are you watching instead on that massive TV behind you?
Yeah.
So I thought I'd start watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, or whatever it's called. So I've sort of got through about 8 or 9 episodes of that. They're only about 20 minutes each, so that's okay. I think I'll keep giving that a go. And I watched a movie on Netflix the other night, actually, Spencer Confidential, starring Mark Wahlberg and others.
Is that the one where he's in prison?
Yes, and he comes out.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen. I've seen the shorts for it.
Yeah, it's probably a sort of a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. So I enjoyed it, but yeah.
You probably rate things a bit higher than we do, so that's probably 4.5.
Yeah, slightly more positive.
You heard it here first, fans. Go and watch it tomorrow. Brilliant. What am I going to be watching? Well, I mean, you guys know me. I don't really watch too much TV. I don't watch too many kind of series. I'm one of the people who didn't really watch Game of Thrones and things like that. But I found out the other day, one of the guys at work is a big Star Wars fan, and we had an hour catch up today, or 45-minute catch up today.
You're busy, are you, Smithers?
Huh?
Busy, I see.
A lot of time of which we spent talking about Star Wars memorabilia, Star Wars movies, which movies were the best. So we've decided, because we had a work shutdown booked in for the week after Easter anyway, and so we're just going to keep that there, even though people can't go away. So I'm just going to work my way through all those Star Wars movies, including the ancillary movies such as Rogue One and Solo. And I might watch The Mandalorian, saying I don't watch TV, only because I'd get Disney Plus because Junior wanted to watch Frozen 2. So I'm going to have The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Yeah, Mandalorian's good. I've watched that series. So we're going to do the Star Wars thing as well. We're even going to get the kids watching it. We're going to see if it won't be too scary for them. So we're going to do it in order.
Oh, Big Mike's little girl, she loves it. Kimberly
Nice.
loves it. So yeah, when you say do it in order, though, we'll talk offline about what order you're going to do it in. Whether
Nice.
you're going to go 1 to 9 or whatever. I'm gonna plug Rogue One and Han Solo and Solo in the right places too.
Welcome to the Star Wars podcast, everyone.
Welcome to the Star Wars podcast. May the force be with you. Okay, right. Where are we at? I'm gonna take it back to the Warriors before we lose younger than we are talking about Star Wars. So I want to. I'm going to talk you. Yeah, I am going to take you back to the Warriors. So obviously there are no more Warriors games for the foreseeable future. So what I thought I would ask is, we don't have a game this Saturday or this Sunday, this weekend. If there's any one Warriors game that you could turn the TV on and it just happened to be on a replay, where they go, hey, we don't have a game, so we're going to show you this one. Which one would it be? So I'll give you a few minutes. I'll go first. I'll give you a few minutes to think about yours, and I'll give you mine. I was thinking about this earlier as I was just going through the agenda. And I thought, and there's been a few games kind of picking out, the playoff game in 2011 against the Tigers, Chris Naninu kind of basically scored a try that should never have been given. I remember watching that down the boozer with my mate Satch, who was over here for the Rugby Union World Cup, because it was on around about the same time here in New Zealand. I remember watching it down, what used to be that Max bar down on the front, and it was a bit of a seesaw game. You had the likes of Chris Naninu. I think Louis Brown might have got a try. Johnson did some crazy stuff. Bit of a seesaw game, and it was sort of at that moment I was like, oh wow, actually we have a chance here. When luck like that starts to go for us. So that would be my one. Jono, you flick the TV on 5 p.m. Saturday. What game gets you a 10 out of 10?
Well, similar type of vein, really. I think the preliminary final against Cronulla in 2002. Cronulla? Yeah, pretty sure it was Cronulla. Yeah, it was Cronulla. Similar type of thing. I think because I'd already booked some tickets to go to the grand final, not knowing that the Warriors are going to go there. I've told this story many times. First time overseas, actually, as well. And so that game just lives in my memory bank as my favourite game of all time.
All right, nice work. Eddie?
I would probably turn on the 2008 18-15 win over the Storm with the Michael Witt to finish them off.
In the corner.
Yeah, that was outstanding, that one.
Nice. Yeah, good run by Manu there.
That's right.
Yeah. Morsey, what about you?
Yeah, mine was the West's game as well, Smithers. That's the one. But I guess if I was to choose another, probably then the week after with against the Storm. Where I think Louis Brown got the winning try there.
Yes.
Yeah. So those two
ridiculous. Sorry, that ridiculous kind of inside look outside from Johnson, kind of running down. And people just went everywhere. He just threw it to Louis Brown. Louis Brown put it down.
Yeah. That was outstanding because that was against a very good Storm team. And that playoff run, didn't we start off with a massive loss against the Broncos up at Suncorp, and we only stayed in because they had that weird system of depending where you finish, you had another chance depending on other results.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm pretty sure we were 6th that year. and
Yeah.
we lost, and we needed 7 and 8 to lose, and they did, and we lost like 40-10.
Yeah,
Like, we got
that's
dicked.
right.
Thumped.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we came back, beat Storm, and got to the grand final. So yeah, so either of those two games would be an outstanding watch on Saturday evening.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, well, hey, who knows? If you're out there, Sky, if you're still in business, stick them on. Because yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any games. So just a couple more questions, and then we'll probably wrap this thing up. So I didn't see I saw the headline for the article, but I didn't actually read it. I think Todd Greenberg would say, this is the point. This is kind of our point of no return. This is our point of which of no return. And I guess this is more health related than it is NRL related. But do you think we'll see NRL again this year? Do you think we'll get the season back up and running? And if so, what would you do as a governing body to make a competitive season out of it? Because we're going to lose a whole load of rounds. So I don't think we're going to be able to play 26 rounds.
So I think they will get back this year. I just the one possibility. So I think they'll get back. It's just how quickly the borders will be open, and whether the Warriors, whether we can go out and they can come back in. So I think they'll get it back. And then depending on where and when it is in the season, there'll be a different type of competition structure, I think. And so clearly they'll be doing contingency plans on what that might look like. But I reckon though, and I've heard them say this, they may well go through to Christmas. Just can lots of the end of, pre-season stuff, can over the internationals and all of that, and just get some money back in the bank.
Okay. Eddie, thoughts?
Yeah, I think I hope that they come back. I bet you with you, Jono, the doggies aren't hoping they don't can Mad Monday. I hope that they come back. My one concern is that the Australians in general, or Australia, they're delusional about how bad this actually is. And we're in lockdown, full lockdown, and they're debating whether they can go to the hairdresser and they can't go to the nail salon. Like, they just thought their shit out and shut it down because, they are totally delusional. And they're the same as America. They're delusional about how bad this could be. They've not seen what's happened in Italy. It's scary how they're just letting it roll along.
Yeah, and Spain now, and I saw a piece of footage on the news there in London. They're going to turn the London Convention Centre, which is this building that's a kilometre long, into the city's biggest hospital. Yeah, incredible.
I mean, America had something like 13,000 new cases yesterday.
It's crazy. And Morsey, will we get any more league?
Yeah, look, I was going to make the same point as Eddie. I think, yes, I think we will, but I do worry about what Australia are doing. And look, I'm clearly no expert, but I feel much more confident being on this side of the Tasman than over there right now. I just think just have the full lockdown. Clearly, they're worried about the economic impact on the country and all of that stuff, but if it's as bad as it's got in Italy and Spain and places like that, then the economic impact is the least of your worries in some ways, because you're going to have no one to go back to work. So it's that's my concern actually, is whether Australia get their shit together. But yes, I think we will get some league back, and like Jono, they can go right into Christmas. I think the Ashes tour will get binned if it hasn't already. Tonga, New Zealand, I saw was binned. So lots of that sort of stuff. We just don't need it. And I think they'll definitely try and get State of Origin if they can. State of Origin will be the thing that they try to do. Either they finish with it, open it up, whatever that is. That'll be the thing they try and do, because that's obviously a big revenue spinner for league over there.
I suspect they'll try and do State of Origin over a course of 3 weeks, 3 weekends over 3 weeks, sort of 16 days, and just smash it out, because it is a revenue spinner, like you say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the other issue though, by bringing all the sport back at the end of the year. I absolutely agree with you on the revenue splitters and on that. But what's going to happen is that if it all starts going to the summertime, all the other sports are going to be doing the same thing, and so more people will have less discretionary income. So there'll be just less people at the games, I think, possibly, or there could be more because they haven't had their fix. But
then the recession that's going to follow this as well will hit discretionary spend anyway.
Yeah, there's going to be quite a fine balance between I haven't watched live sport for ages, so I want to go and watch some, and I haven't watched live sport for ages, but now I've got so much to watch. Where do I go? It could be an incredibly crowded event calendar. Just going back to, do I think there'll be anyone? I don't know. I just don't know. I'm perhaps not as optimistic as you guys, and I think this thing has got months to run. And I think once you're at a point of we are not playing sport and we are in lockdown, it's a lot easier to go from playing sport to not playing sport to go back to playing sport again. I think you only need a few things to say, okay, let's shut up shop. Whereas going back to, okay, right, we're going to start this thing again, and then there's going to be a lot of people going, well, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? There's going to be so many hoops for these people to jump through. I think it's going to be a harder, not just from a time point of view, but from a health and safety, from the borders point of view, from a moving stuff around. It's going to be a lot harder for people to kick things going again, the economy not excluded, than it is to shut it down. So I got a feeling this thing's got a long way to run, and and unfortunately the weather in this part of the world is not going to get any better, which doesn't necessarily help the health situation. Cool. God, just bringing us down again. Sorry, fellas. Well, you know what? That's all I had on the agenda today. I wanted to talk about a good amount of sport. I wanted to talk about a little bit of the Warriors. I think I will allow go around the houses, just see what everyone's doing this weekend. What are your big plans for the weekend? And just show us to stay cheerio. Just as a matter, we haven't had a conversation around what we're going to do. So I think our future is as uncertain as the. I suspect that listening to us talk about Star Wars each week is not something that I want to do. But I might go stir crazy not doing anything. So I suspect we will do something at some point on an occasional basis, and we'll keep you filled in with that, I guess. Morsey, what are you doing this weekend?
Probably quite a bit around the house. I was looking at the garden actually and thought, well, do you know what? Let's get out there and sort some of that stuff out. We'll be doing that. We'll obviously go for a walk around the block just to get some fresh air. And as I said, we will start that Star Wars kind of tradition. We're right into Lego Masters as well now. So the family.
Eddie, what are you doing this weekend? Drinking some of your poison wine.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, we did a bit of a stock take, and we've got quite a bit, so there's no worries there. Get out, maybe go for a bike ride. The permits might do a bit of painting around the house. So
good work, Jono.
Oh, look, I'm just going to sit around and figure out how I'm going to live my life for the next 3.5 weeks. So. Because I haven't figured it out yet.
You didn't have to add for the next 3.5 weeks there. You could just concentrate on how you're going to live your life. I am going to. And this is my public service bit. I'm gonna stay at home. Other than walking the dog, and I did walk the dog today, and I was surprised. Everyone said hello, but I didn't see one car on the road. So that actually, I was quite pleased that people were staying in. I did have to go to the shops yesterday to grab a couple of things, and I was surprised how quiet Pack and Save was and how much food they had. So we've got enough. I'm gonna stand, do some stuff around the house, do some tidying up. I'm gonna stand as much as possible. I'm gonna stand and I'm gonna love it, and I hope everyone out there is gonna do the same thing. You don't need to go to the shops. You don't need to go to the park. Well, you don't need to go to the beach. You don't need to go to big areas. Go for a walk, paint your fence, wash your hands, have some dinner, wash your hands, sort your garage, wash your hands, just do everything. Stay healthy, stay safe. There's no Warriors match, so we can't really say go to Warriors. So, any ideas?
I don't know. Just stay safe out there, everyone. This is not a joke. This whole COVID-19 staying at home thing. You know,
No.
It's not. You shouldn't be looking for loopholes. Just stay the fuck at home.
Yeah, the best one I saw. I mean, there's been a few little sentences online, but I think the best one I saw was something along the lines of, "The longer that you don't stay at home, the longer we're going to have to stay at home.
Yeah,
like if you don't do it now, we're just going to have to keep doing it, and we are going to do it. We're going to do it. I think the mentality in New Zealand, I hope, is one that we're going to do it. We're going to smash this thing, and we'll do it better than any other country. Not that I don't want other countries to do it as well."
Yeah, I mean, it just needs to re-bring out our slogan, isn't it? Let's do this, or whatever it was from the election.
All right, there you go. Maybe that's how we'll sign it off.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for listening, for watching. Take care. Stay safe.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.